Welcome and thank you for joining us for the International Student Connects webinar. Today we're going to be looking at after you arrive in Ontario for your studies. So we have in this series, we have before you arrive. Now we're going to look at after you arrive in Ontario. My name is Ingrid and I will be your presenter for today. If you have any questions, please submit them and we will respond to them within 24 to 48 hours. At the end of the webinar, there is a short survey. Please take a moment if you have some time and answer the questions in the survey. It actually helps us in the future create additional webinars. On our agenda for today, we're going to be looking at arriving in Canada, airport requirements, housing options, orientation process, if you're traveling with family members, and settling in. And then we'll talk a little bit about some resources that we have available for you in the International Student Connect project. Now, when you arrive in Canada, you'll see that a government official will meet you and they will perhaps be asking you questions about your travel documents. The officer will ask you for your passport and they'll ask you some additional questions. You'll also need to show proof that you will leave Canada at the end of your stay. So once you arrive here, when you get to the airport, you are going to be meeting with an immigration officer at the airport. Nothing to be intimidated by. It's a very simple process, and everyone goes through that process. The security officer will interview you when you arrive at the airport, and they'll also ask you for a letter of introduction. So you would have received a letter of introduction that was sent to you from the visa office when they approved your study permit. This letter has your permit reference number, which is then used to issue your study permit. Okay? Keep that letter with you. That's called your letter of introduction. The reason you need to keep it with you is because when you arrive at the airport, they will ask you for that letter. You should also have a copy of the acceptance letter that you received from the institution. So whether it's the university or the college, please do ensure that you have a copy of that letter that they sent you to say you have been accepted into the program. You should have a copy of that with you, in fact, at all times. You will be required to show proof that you also have enough money to support yourself during your stay here in Canada. So ensure that you have bank statements and all of the information that they are going to require when you show up at the airport. Please do keep those with you handy in your purse, in your backpack, whatever carry-on luggage you're taking with you, because they will ask you for those things. You should also be prepared with any letters of references or any other documents the visa office where you applied told you to bring, and everything should be valid. Now, the ETA, if you have an approved ETA, it will be linked to your passport that you used to apply for your study permit or temporary resident visa. So they may ask you for the ETA as well. That's something that you will definitely have with you, especially it's called the electronic authorization. So if you come from a country where you don't need a visa, you would have an ETA, and that would be in your passport. Just think about that. Now, traveling from the airport, your port of entry may be the airports at Toronto or in Ottawa. If that is the case, you will need to get to your final destination. Okay? Now, how do you get from point A to point B here? Well, there are sometimes a shuttle bus or community buses near major airports in the provinces. So you will be able to get perhaps Coach Canada. There's the Megabus. We have Go buses, the City Bus. You could also take a taxi There's rideshare, so you can decide which rideshare you're going to use. There's Ontario Northland, and there's also the Greyhound. So all of these are services that you can pretty much access once you get out of the airport. So my suggestion would be that you plan your trip in such a way that, you know, if you have a travel agent, you would ask the travel agent, when I get to Toronto or when I get to Ottawa and I need to get to address A or address B, how do I get from point A to point B? And then make the arrangements from there so that when you get here, you're not feeling scared and you don't really know where to go from there. Many of the universities will have someone at the airport waiting for you to kind of guide you to where you need to go. If that is the case, you will find assistance there. But if that's not the case, then you will need to make those arrangements prior to arriving here in Canada. Now, we'll take a look at the housing options that you'll have. Most universities and some colleges offer residence options to their students depending on when you arrive. Your room or your apartment, if in residence, may not be available. So if you're coming at a time when the other set of students are not yet out, or sometimes in the summertime, the residence is not available to students, then you may need to make alternate arrangements. Those alternate arrangements could be that you reserve a room in a motel, a hotel room, or book a bed and breakfast near your campus until it's time for you to move in. So these are some questions that you really do need to think about. You know, did you choose an on-campus residence? If that's the case, then you do need to know when you'll be able to move in, if you're going to be able to move in by the time you get here. Will you arrive before your school term begins? Now, on-campus residences are usually closed over the winter break period from mid-December to early January. You can ask for help from the International Student Center, and if you need assistance with accommodation arrangements during that period, that is something that you definitely should do. If you're thinking of, going off campus, so did you choose an off-campus housing option? If that is the case, you will need to find temporary housing while you look for a suitable place close to your campus. There are different places that you could look. So you could look in the classified ads. You could look on your college or university's student publication boards where you may find apartments or houses that you can share with other students. Now, these things are critical because you may come, and if you haven't yet made those arrangements, then you have no place to stay. If you're going to stay off campus and you're going to be looking for that place while you're here in Canada, my suggestion is that you make the inquiries using a Canadian telephone number. So whether it's your cell phone or it's the phone at the residence, we found that landlords were far more likely to answer a local number compared to a call coming from an area code that they did not know. So something to think about. You can ask for help from the International Student Center if you need assistance with accommodation arrangements during that period. Your student center is actually quite helpful, and they will provide you with a lot of support. That's something that you should take advantage of, especially when you're very new to the system, to the culture, and to your environment. So definitely think about those things. You're going to go through an orientation process. So, when you arrive here, it is not going to be that you arrive and you just go and settle into your apartment and then there's absolutely nothing there for you. Your institution will do an orientation with you, and to get information about that, you should visit the International Student Center at your university or college once you've found a place to live. Find out about the orientation process, the orientation schedule, and if you're interested, at that point is where you should probably be signing up for activities around you. What should you look for while you're at the International Student Center? Well, once you've identified the activities that you're interested in, so look around, see if there's any activity that you're going to be interested in. You should then complete the registration for those activities, choose programs that will help you integrate, such as English conversation groups and other activities offered on campus that you're interested in. So one of the things that we have found is that many students who arrive from overseas, they will come into the university environment and they tend to surround themselves with other students that are from their same very own background. There's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. The only issue is that if you're all from the same place, and let's say you're all first year students, then there's no one to teach the other the Canadian culture, things that are actually quite important for you to integrate within the Canadian society and within your university culture. So when you start looking for activities, look for things that will give you an opportunity to meet other people that will be able to benefit you as you grow in your new journey that you've just undertaken. You should also, while you're at the International Student Center, pick up your student card or identification, buy a bus pass if you're going to need one. You should activate your college or university email if you haven't already done so. And this is quite critical. Open a bank account. So many campuses will have banks either pretty close to them, or they will have a campus that on campus they'll have banks on their physical campus. Go to the nearest one, open a bank account, pay your tuition or residence fees if you have not yet done so before you arrived. This is critical. Your tuition fees makes, if they're paid or unpaid, it makes the difference between whether or not you're going to be able to complete the courses that you would have wanted to sign up for. Sometimes courses get full and things like that. If your tuition is not paid on time, this could impact you. So please do, during the orientation process, think about those things. Make sure that you have, you've gone through the steps of paying your tuition fee or your residence fee if that is the case. Now, textbooks tend to be quite expensive, and this is something that you're going to need. You will need to purchase your textbooks as soon as possible. So one of the things that we suggest is that you can save money by buying used textbooks at your college, or either at the college or at the university. In the bookstore, they generally will have a used book section. So they'll have some that are used, some that are new. You can speak to the person that's in the store and ask for what's the best deal. To be quite frank with you, all the books that are not, let's say, editions that have to be upgraded every semester or every year, some of them you have to do that, especially law books and things like that. I personally have bought used books throughout my entire post-secondary education journey. There are a few that I had to buy new, but all the ones that I could get that were used, I would definitely get the used ones because they would be sometimes even 50% cheaper than the new ones. So you can choose to do that. You can also reach out to other students. We have what is known as Kijiji, there's Craigslist, there's Facebook, a lot of different apps that students who have already gone through your program may be looking to offload and sell their old textbooks. Take advantage of that so you can save some money. Set up your telephone and internet services. If you are going to be living off campus, then you definitely need to set up your internet services unless the landlord would have already done so. And in most cases, the landlord will not. So you need to ensure that your you're connecting yourself to the services. Ensure that you have a working telephone. That is critical. Get your college or university health insurance card. Colleges and universities have mandatory health coverages for international students. You can also enroll your spouse or your partner and your children who are accompanying you. If you do have family that's accompanying you, they are eligible to be enrolled into your health insurance plan. This is another task that you should not delay. Get the information when you arrive, or late fees could actually apply. We talked about registering for your courses or make class changes. Sometimes students do not realize this, but if you are going to make a change in the class that you have decided you're going to take, you do need to do so within a designated time frame. If you do not do that, then you could be charged a fee, or it could show up on your record that you actually dropped out of a course. And that's not something that you really want to do. So you want to get on top of that as soon as possible. And register for a social insurance card by visiting a Service Canada office, and make sure that you have all documents that you need with you to do so. Your social insurance number or the social insurance card. Now they're no longer giving them social insurance numbers are no longer given as a card. They're now provided as just a piece of paper with your information on it. So please do ensure that you go to the Service Canada office and make that application. Let's say that you had family members that were accompanying you. Not many students do this, but we have a good percentage of students who will come with their family members to study. They'll take their wife and children, or husband and children, and they'll come to Canada, complete their studies as their children go to school here, or as their spouses find jobs as well. So if you are a married couple, or you are a couple that have your family with you, there are on-campus apartments that may be available to couples and their families. You should apply early, as they are limited, and there's often a waiting list of applicants for those units. On-campus accommodations should be arranged early. So spouses and partners of international students are often welcome to attend events and take part in some of the different programs and services offered by the international and exchange student centers. You can take your spouse with you in many cases. A spouse of a full-time international student may obtain an open work permit to work for any employer. So if you've got your spouse is eligible to enroll, they can go to the Service Canada office and get a social insurance number. It will be an open work permit, and they could work with literally any company they choose. A specific job offer is not required to obtain an open work permit, just so you know. The open work permit will have the same expiry date as your spouse's study permit. So if you are an international student, and I'm sure that many other people are reviewing and watching this webinar, perhaps parents are looking at the webinar, perhaps family members are looking at this webinar, just so you know, if a spouse accompanies their spouse to Canada, and they would like to work, they could apply for an open work permit, and that open work permit, however, will expire on the date of their spouse's study permit. Hopefully that makes sense to you. What documents will be included in the work permit application is a question that we get often. So your spouse or common law will need to include with the application a photocopy of your study permit. They'll need a letter from the college or university confirming your enrollment as a full-time student. And they'll also need a copy of your marriage certificate or proof of common law details, common law status. I'm sure that if you are coming with your spouse, then you would know that, you would have all of these pieces of information that is required. Now, do you have school-aged children that are going to be attending with you? If you do have school-aged children, and many international students studying full-time with a valid study permit, they do have school-aged children. So some of the questions that we get asked are, if I take my children with me, what will it cost? How much will it cost for my child to attend school here in Canada? Well, there are no costs for school-aged children to attend school. It is actually at no cost to you, the parent, based on the Ontario Education Act. Please note, however, that you will also have to submit a study permit application from your country or permanent residence for your children. Preschool and kindergarten children do not need a study permit. If you choose to send your children to private schools, there are also before and after school programs that they can take part in. And there are usually some fees associated with this, but not generally very expensive. It's usually enough for you to manage. All right, so now you've done all of those things, and it's time for you to get into campus life. This is the most exciting part of actually, post-secondary education on a whole is quite a very interesting and exciting time in anyone's lives who's decided that this is something that they want to do. So you've done all of that. You've gone through customs. You have chosen a place to live. You've chosen some activities that you want to do with your friends. Now we're looking at you settling into campus life. Adapting to a new culture is actually, even though exciting, can sometimes be stressful and can also pose a little bit of challenges for some people. So we suggest that you find support groups, discussion forums, multicultural groups, and organizations that can help you. Places like Costi Immigrant Services that brings you this webinar. We are a multicultural settlement agency, and we do have the opportunity to connect you with other people within the settlement. You've moved into Canada, you want to settle within that environment. If you choose a place like Costa, for example, you would be able to identify with other newcomers who've just come to Canada. That would be good for you in some respects, as you could share ideas and different, things that you've experienced together. Find out about student clubs and organizations that you can also join, so student support clubs. You should also enroll in sports and recreation on campus. There's a lot to do on campus. Sometimes I regret not doing more than I did on campus. I didn't do as much as I should have. And then you need to find out about student services. So learning skill services, for example, LGBT support, psychological services, services for students with disability, writing support centers, etc. These are all very important, and you will find that all of these support systems are there to help you to be much more successful in the course that you're now charting with your life. So please do ensure that you utilize all the resources that are available to you. Now, there are a few things that you should consider when, after you've moved into Ontario. As you ease into your school year, we thought that these would be quite important for you. So these are 3-digit phone numbers that connect you to essential services. In some countries, reaching the police is 119. For example, in my home country, we dial 119, not 911. In Canada, however, it is 911 emergency services. Then we have 211. It's a social service helpline that provides information on things like housing, childcare, how to get food if you're hungry and you can't afford to buy food. They will guide you to the closest food bank so that you're not starving. um, Municipal services is 311, and that's for most cities in Ontario. So that's for garbage collection and recycling program, city events and festivals, recreational programs, etc. So if you're one of those people who's very keen on, let's say, enjoying different cultural activities, 311 is your place to go. And if you live in a house where you're not responsible, where there's no garbage chute, because in the building, you're able to take up your garbage and stick it down the chute. Here, if you are sharing a home, you will not have that opportunity. So you will have to be prepared to leave your garbage pails outside for the garbage truck to pick those up. 311 can help you to identify when the garbage truck will come, what types of garbage are they taking on that particular day. And then there's 411. It's for residents and business telephone numbers, so restaurants, banks, friends, etc. There's some fees do apply to use this 411 service. Check out campus safety. Banking is a good one. So you will need to learn, if you don't already know, how to use the ATMs. Banks on campus where you can make money transfer and things like that. Budgeting. Think about how you're going to budget the money that you came with. Because if your parents gave you, let's say, 10,000 Canadian dollars, and that is supposed to last you for, let's say, a year, that is pretty close to impossible to do. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to live on a really tight budget. So you want to start scheduling, things that you're going to be paying. What debts are you going to be taking on? How much will your cell phone bill cost? How much will your internet cost? Factoring in all of those things will help you when it comes to budgeting. Food. You want to know where you're going to buy food. Why is this important? Because purchasing food in different cities have different costs. So if you're purchasing at, let's say, one of the lower end grocery stores, then your grocery bill will be less. Higher end, it'll be more. Why would you be purchasing at a lower end grocery store? Because at the end of the day, many people are unable to afford, to buy lavish groceries. And so we shop in some of the grocery stores that are lower end stores to pick up different types of things. Perhaps there are some cultural foods that I want from that particular grocery store. I'll go inside. Once I get in there, I'll see other things that I want to purchase. And so that is why it's pretty good that I choose to shop in these stores as opposed to the ones that are at the higher end of the financial scale. Now we're coming to the end of our webinar, and I wanna take a look at the transition plan that we have on our website. Our website is the International Student Connect website, and this website provides you with a wealth of information. We have information on a transition plan. We have task lists that you can set some tasks for yourself. We have different fact sheets that you're able to use. We've got an Ontario International Student Guide that you're also able to access. And all of this information is at no cost to you. None of it will cost you anything extra. You don't have to worry about thinking that you're going to be paying extra for these things. So I don't want to go and check this out because it's going to be extra. No, we don't charge you anything. All of this is paid for on government funding. We do our jobs well, and so the government recognizes that there are people who do need some additional support. And so social workers or social service workers like myself, we get the opportunity to be able to work very closely with you without charging you anything through the project, the International Student Connect project. So the transition plan is a tool that will help you keep track of tasks. For example, if you're planning on remaining in Canada after you graduate, then this transition plan is probably ideal for you, because within the transition plan, we talk about different stages that you are going to get to, where you'll need to, you will need to make different arrangements. So you'll need to have a certain amount of money by a certain time. You'll need to have a job by a certain time. You will need to ensure that you're filing paperwork at a certain time. All of these things are within the transition plan, so something that could be very useful for you. This project, called International Student Connect, is a project that is funded by the Government of Ontario, and it is a bilingual project. We at Costi Immigrant Services, a community-based multicultural agency serving more than 39,000 clients annually, and we've got about 17 locations. We are the coordinating agency for this project. So if you do have any questions or concerns and you'd like to reach out to someone, please do not hesitate to send us an email at isc@costi.org, or you may contact us at 1-844-871-4567. I'd like to thank you for joining us today, and I hope that this webinar was insightful. It was short, to the point, and that you got exactly what you came for out of it. I do hope to see you in some additional webinars at a later date that we do have. Please do feel free, like I said once again, to contact us at isc@costi.org, or you may call us at 1-844-871-4567. Thank you.